Welcome to my Bob Thurman podcast. I'm so grateful some good friends enabled me to present them to you. If you enjoy them and find them useful, please think of becoming a member of Tibet House US to help preserve Tibetan culture. Tibet House is the Dalai Lama's cultural center in America. All best wishes. Have a great day.
This is episode 309, Understanding Selflessness and Clear Light.
So, what selflessness meant is something more direct. Now, I think we can do together, the way I have found useful to explain this is that we do together a certain type of thought experiment right together now. And that is, everyone who is here feels that they are the main person here. Do they not? Each one of you is sort of at the nexus of your sense data, sense receptions, sense inputs, which are, I apologize, my voice probably, grating on your ears, looking around here and there, feeling the chair underneath you, tasting the remains of dinner or your cup of coffee in your mouth, smelling something or other. And the nexus of that is you. And that event of and then there's some thoughts that you're aware of that you're thinking as you're listening and coordinating all of this activity and keeping yourself together on your chair, in attendance and awake. All of it just shows great skill. And that's the main thing that's happening here, right? Each of you is the center of this event here, isn't it? And in a way, some of us may be more feeling that than others, but all of us basically feel that we are the absolute center here. That there's something about us that is sort of special in here to each of us. And if we knew, we each feel that there's something absolutely individual, meaning undividable, indivisible, irreducible, a sort of point of subjectivity that is sort of absolutely us. That is our soul or mind or, the core of our essence. And that is somehow completely inviolable from anyone else here. And it's completely separate. And has its own secret kind of thing. And when we think in a group and we're being polite and nice, we're in church or in class or whatever it is, well, it's not really so special. Here we are. Let's hold hands. We're all one. But if any one of us got really mad, we would see how strongly they are the center of being here. If we got really mad, we would suddenly be, I am this, I am that, wouldn't we? Remember last time you were real mad? There was some people like being mad because it makes them feel kind of very absolute, and like, wow, vigorous they feel, Because what the anger does is come and takes that sense of center of being sort of an absolute unto yourself. The I am thing that has a real referent and sort of makes it sort of hum. Unfortunately, it makes it hum so much sometimes that center will take mere inconsequential relative things such as your body and throw it against a wall. Or mad people, will wreck cars, jump off cliffs, bang on each other. You know what they'll do. You know what you'll do when you're really mad. Although I suppose, speak for myself. I'm particularly bad-tempered. Have been in my life, and I bang my head a lot, besides others' heads. So, each of us clearly thinks we're the center. As an old master of mine used to say, each of us somewhere secretly has this kind of idea, I'm the one. Who's the one? I'm the one. Right? You all think that. And obviously, by a little check about the fact that everyone else thinks that, each of us knows that each of us is wrong. Right? If you're the one, I can't be the one. If I'm the one, you can't be the one. And then there are multiple senders here. And then there are millions of them around. Everyone is the one. So they're all wrong. We're all wrong. None of us is the one. Not a single one of us is the center of this room. Not a one. There is no center of this room. We are not the center of this room. We are totally wrong that we are the one here. Now, once we think we're the one, of course, we get into a terrible problem. Namely, the first problem, I'm the one, but none of you agree with me. So nothing that you do satisfies me. Because you don't treat me that I'm the one. Because you think you're the one. So why should you treat me if I'm the one? So I don't like you. And you don't like me. Right? Because I don't treat you, you're the one. You don't treat me, I'm the one. Because we each secretly think we're the one. So then we get angry with each other. Or if I'm the one, then I want a lot of things. You do this and do that, and then we get greedy about it. Because I'm the one, so I should have it all. Then I'm the one, and I sneakingly suspect someone else has a little something. I get jealous of them. And then when I'm really indulging, I'm the one, I get very proud. I'm the one. You know, when I'm feeling secure, when nobody's temporarily letting me know I'm not, then I get proud. I'm the one. Right? Now, it's not enough in this case to just sort of say, gee, well, I won't be proud, I won't be greedy, I won't be angry, I won't be jealous. That's good in the sense of calming down. If I start getting angry, I realize, wait a minute, I'm making a mistake. I'm going to cause harm here. If I start getting greedy, wait, I shouldn't exaggerate here. I mean, that's good, those kind of control things. But none of them can deal with the root of the issue, which is the basic mistake. The mistaken perception of the self as a self-sufficient, intrinsically real, intrinsically identifiable. There are all these different terms. Buddhism developed a very sophisticated psychology of identity. And all of those types of a self, as long as we are addicted to assuming that type of self, not just assuming, feeling it existing within ourselves, then the I'm the one thing will come up. We can't stop it. It's the root of it. We can only control and suppress its manifestations, but we cannot stop it. We also cannot stop it by any form of meditation. There's no meditation that will stop it. Absolutely none. You can meditate until you're totally blue in the face, until you have a callus this thick on your buttock, until so many Zen masters have beat you up that you're like punch drunk, and you still think you're the one. In fact, the Zen masters tend to think they're the ones. Did you notice that? They start their macho die, you know? And then suddenly, hey, I'm the master. Because meditation alone can never cure this I'm the one. In fact, if you meditate without dislodging the I'm the one, what is the real mantra of your meditation? You may be going moo, 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 but what does moo mean? It means I'm the one, I'm the one, I'm the one. So naturally, 20 years later, eureka, you have a satori. What have you discovered? I'm the one. And now it's backed up by, like, your mind has become so totally lobotomized from thinking critically about anything that the mantra is just full of the mantra. You're going around, I'm the one, 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 I'm the one. So you're toddling around. Everybody has to worship you. If not, forget it. Excommunicate them. So meditation alone cannot do it. I shouldn't pick on Zen. I mean, Tibetan, any kind of meditation will be the same. Meditation is nothing but a tool. It's nothing but an arrow. It's a gun. It's a powerful weapon, meditation. It'll hit what you aim it at. If you aim it at I'm the one, it'll hit that. And it'll like become a massive explosion of I'm the one. If you aim it at, hey, I'm not the one, then it helps the insight about the self, which is the only thing that eradicates this I'm the one business. It's the core, it's wisdom, it's called. It's wisdom, not some sort of vague intuition, because wisdom at the beginning is counterintuitive. Intuitionally, you all think you're the one. I think I'm the one. My intuition, my apparently immediate habitual perception is, yes, I am the one. So the wisdom that I am not the one is at first an intellectual knowledge. That is a very simple knowledge. Every one of you here knows that everyone else thinks they are the one. Somebody's wrong. We can figure out easily we are not really. That's pure intellectual knowledge. That is the most powerful knowledge in the world. That is the most crucial knowledge. Don't tell me it's just some intuition, feel this. No, it is that knowledge which is against what you feel. Your prejudice is, like a person who has race prejudice or nationalistic prejudice or religious prejudice, your prejudice is the race, the religion, and the nation is you, and you're the one. That's your prejudice. That's your intuition. I'm it. That is wrong. And the wisdom that I am just one of many, I am just a part of the scene, I am not as important as many others, I listen to that is something deduced at first by looking at the facts. Once you then have this thing where you clearly understand selflessness as an intellectual understanding, then if you meditate, then you can attain enlightenment. It shouldn't take 20 years or 20. You don't have to sit in this and that way. You don't have to don this and that like black cloak or your red cloak or your pink cloak. You can walk around town. If you're working on selflessness, your life can become a meditation. Basically, it's an educational process. You know, when someone has a prejudice, on another kind of example, when someone is very prejudiced that they think such and such is the case because they're brought up to think that, conditioned to think that, then they learn, like race prejudice, okay? All whites are stupid and inferior and ignorant, let's say. This prejudice that many people on this planet have. White people have noses that are too long. They have eyes that are too pale. They smell bad. Many people on this planet have such a prejudice. They're too violent. They make nuclear bombs. They conquer the world. They turn into yuppies. People have this prejudice. I mean, it sounds unreasonable to us, but they have this prejudice. Then they study and they learn, hey, many white people were saints. Many white people were generous. Many white people smelled good. Many white people had nice noses. Many white people had nice eyes. And they learn all this in a book. Some of them could do high jumps. Some of them could cook nice vegetables. So they're not all that bad. But then they go out in a bus full of white people and they go, ugh! Because their intuition tells them these white people stink. So that's then a process of education. They have to hold the knowledge from their study that there are these nice white people. Some of their best friends are white people. And they take that knowledge of the fact that there's no real difference. I mean, there are differences among whites as there are among blacks and yellows and reds, whatever. But basically, it's not a matter of the race. The knowledge that their prejudice is simply a habitual, addictive, conceptual, conditioned, mental, and emotional state. And they can then that's meditation. Then they meditate. And when they see a white person and all these things come up for them, they develop a critical seeing through. And they try to see beyond the stereotype, and they see the real live person there. And they say, gee, this person could be all right. They just need a little suntan. They need a little something. They could be cool, So that's a process of education. It's not, if they just meditated without thinking, they'd just wake up from the meditation like 10 years later and they'd still think white people sucked. Because they had put no critical input against their presupposition about the nature of white people. So this is where this process comes in, this thing about selflessness. Now, the danger here, which should be mentioned right away, which you nodded your head strongly against, which I'm delighted about, is the thing that the notion of selflessness means that you're not there. When you meditate on selflessness, even when you hear about it, actually, if you're predisposed about it, if you have some kind of karma, if you have some kind of intelligence, they say, you can have kind of experiences as if you were disappearing or slipping away. There's a famous story about the great Tibetan master Tsongkhapa whose class was like teasing one of his students because during his lecture about selflessness, the student had been like tugging at his shirt, like going like this and that. feeling kind of suffocating. And Dzongkhapa said, you guys are dumb, teasing him. He's the one who was actually understanding what I'm talking about. He was feeling a little fear, like he was sort of losing control of himself, like he was slipping away, like what his normal hookup and routinized wiring system was something funny. And he was getting like panicky and nervous. There are these stages of doing this. When you begin this critical process, you have these kind of experiences. Because one Lama I had explained it, I thought, rather beautifully. The great Taratoku, who some of you know, I think, he said that the conventional self, that is the purely relative self that really is here. I mean, see, each of us is wrong that we're the one, but each of one is a little bit right. I mean, we're each of us here. Each of us is responsible for our little sector, our part of being here. None of us is not here. So we're not totally wrong, just as we're not completely right. We're partly wrong and partly right. The part that's right is that each of us is, relatively speaking, here. We're not the one, but we're one of the ones. We're part of the scene. We're here interacting with others. Right? So, but that relative self, then the Tibetans, the Buddhist psychology, that's called the conventional self or the relative self. Now that relative self is so used to, as Taratoku used to explain, it's so accustomed from beginningless time to being intertwined with the absolutized self-habit. The notion of being an absolute sort of, I'm the real one type thing. And so what one has to do is go through certain kind of experiences where one kind of lets it go, which means that one lands in nothing, which means that one realizes one stays there, you see? It's like nothing is nothing, you see? So nothing, you can't fall into nothing. But you can fear falling into nothing if you're reifying nothing as something. Only when you realize that as nothing, by sort of letting go into it, then you realize there's nothing to fall into, and then your relative self is there. You see, it's just experience letting go of the absolute self, in a way. So this is what, apparently, too, it's actually painful for us. Now, this is why he said all contaminated things are suffering. Meaning contaminated means all unenlightened, all experiences tainted or contaminated by the distorted self-habit is a suffering. Apparently, we really can't, when we're sort of locked up around this sort of absolute self-image, this sometimes ecstatic because we sort of get megalomaniac, sometimes depressed, paranoid because we think the whole world is coming after us, basically alienated because we think we, as a sort of essence, are separated totally from all of life. We viscerally think that. We intuitively think that. It's not that we don't logically think it, we intuitively think it. And that puts us up against all of life, which makes us a permanent loser. Life will beat us. There's so many other people who are the ones. If they're after us as the one, we lose. If we're greedy, we want everything, we won't get what we want. If we're angry and fight everybody, they'll beat us. So, and even when we experience something, even a beautiful thing, if I'm locked up in being it, I can't lose myself in the experience of that beautiful thing. I just lotus, I've seen 10 of those. That's going to wilt tomorrow. I've seen a better chrysanthemum yesterday. I hear music. My mind busily is running on about tomorrow's whatever. This I'm the one situation, this locked up around this false core, false self-preoccupation, makes everything miserable, apparently, according to Buddha. If you have any fraction of insight about it, you release a little crack in it. Apparently, it is the greatest pleasure. You feel tremendous relief. You feel such a relief, they say, that when you have this experience, everyone else in the world for a time looks like they're haunted. You know those poets like T.S. Eliot writes about walking in London and everyone looked like they were dead? And I don't know if you remember in the Proof Rock, and all these poets have written that, and Sufi mystics, they all say this kind of thing because they have had an experience of selflessness. And when you do, then suddenly apparently everyone looks haunted because they're going around like, I'm the one, and they're looking and trying to see something more interesting and trying to get out of this sort of locked cycle where the energy is all locked around themselves. In this total vicious circle of self-preoccupation, paranoia, self-dissatisfaction, dissatisfaction of everything else, alienation. So Buddha saw through that and he was just totally turned on. What a relief. Not only that, but how easy it is for people to get away from their dramas of being the one and see through it. Now, of course, the key thing here, the key point, why then the Buddha established this whole huge educational system that is Buddhism, really. Not a religion, really not a religion. I mean, it can be a religion if that's useful to someone, if they need a religion, but by what the modern definition of religion, which is sort of a belief system, it really isn't. It's a disbelief system. It's a critical wisdom system. It's a deconstruction of all beliefs. Yes, you may plug in a little belief in causality and karma, a belief in the possibility of enlightenment, a belief in freedom, and so on. These can be kind of useful, but if they're simply adopted belief, they're actually harmful. Because, when I'm the one comes around and saying, I'm the one who believes in freedom, it becomes a monster. I'm the one who's a Buddhist. They go around, you should be a Buddhist. They start belaboring people to be Buddhists. You ever notice a few people who thought they were hot Buddhists, Came around, you got to come and see my guru, and you didn't do this thing, you don't have this initiation, you didn't sit with that master, you're nothing. Did you ever notice how they can sometimes be worse? Once they do, they think they're a big member. So believing it won't help. It's not the right view. What they call the authentic view in the Eightfold Path is the view of selflessness only, the view of emptiness. Temporarily, relativity is good. Causality, former and future life is good. Things about relative reality that are preferable to sort of the more alienating ideologies are good, but any ideology, qua ideology, is basically feeds into the ego addiction, except the critical turning against the ego addiction. The only antidote is wisdom, which is not a belief. So it's really not a religion. Buddha didn't say you must believe. Buddha said, don't believe me. Don't give me this like, oh, you got a golden face and you have a big lump on top of your head with extra brains in it or something. Buddha had this weird head, this huge, because they said no one could see the top of his head. When you saw the Buddha, it looked like his head was sort of like open to the heavens or something. It was like this vast thing, which in sculpture they made as a big lump on his head, Looked like somebody had hit him with a brick. And he had he had this little tuft of hair, and he had all these funny signs about his body. He looked like an extraterrestrial a little bit. But he said, don't believe what I say because you say, oh, he's the Buddha, he must be. That's ridiculous. If a goldsmith accepted, some guy could dress up in a Buddha suit and go out and try to sell them gold and sell them, fake gold. You have to test it. Burn it. Rub it on the touchstone of your experience. Burn it in the fire of your critical wisdom, what I tell you. And then if it's worthwhile, if it measures up to your experiment, then accept it. But not because I'm a Buddha. So don't be devoted to me. That's the Buddha said that. It was quite unique among so-called founders of these kind of movements. He never said believe in what I say. And precisely this is the reason, because if you believe in selflessness, you're in trouble. Because you don't feel that you're selfless. So if your self-habit comes around to believing in selflessness, what you'll do is you will become a nihilist. You will believe that you're not there. You'll make the lack of self a real thing. And you'll go around being a sort of nothing, which will make you a bit psychotic. Not a very good thing to believe in. In fact, the teaching of selflessness means that the habit of delusion that we feel that we are an absolute real self is what causes all our trouble. What we therefore should do is acknowledge that we feel we're this real one and this real self. We should discover, even magnify, they say, our egoistic views until it appears as high as Mount Everest. We should really become aware of our self-concern. Its great depth and power of it. But then what we should do is we should examine it. Okay, I feel like I'm the one. All right, let me find the one that I feel like I am. So the meditation on selflessness is in fact a meditation on the self. It is the ultimate attempt to find the self. You don't look for the selflessness. You look for the self. They tell us from the tradition that if we really look hard for the self, we will fail to find it. The self that is absolute, self-sufficient, intrinsically real, substantial, etc., intrinsically identifiable. It has like its own distinctive identity in it. If we look for that kind of stuff, they tell us we will fail to find it. But our accepting that on faith would be a vast mistake, because we wouldn't have actually experienced its absence. The only way to experience its absence is to really try hard to find it. As long as we think it's there, we must try hard to find it. And then when we fail to find it, apparently we have to try hard not to find the failure to find it. That's not just a trick, verbal trick. That's very important. When you fail to find it, that's when you get near all these nothingness experiences. They are there. There are lots of experiences. They're samadhi realms of nothingness. And in the failure to find it, one can sort of find, aha, so it's not there, I can't find it. So there's nothing there, I found that. That's a terrible danger we must always be against. If you found nothing, it's not nothing that you found. If you're up against a wall that looks like nothing, it's not nothing because you're up against it. If you feel yourself sinking into a black hole that is nothing, it cannot be nothing, because nothing is not a black hole. Nothing is nothing. Cannot be found. Right? Isn't it? Of course, those of you who know me know that I'm getting so addled that I think the greatest thing in the world is to discover that nothing is nothing. It's really a very profound thing. Nothing is nothing. We don't know that. We go around nothing, and I'm afraid of nothing, and nothingness is dangerous, and I'll become a psycho, I'll lose my balance, it's dangerous psychologically, Buddhism, it might be nothing. But nothing is nothing. Can't be free, nothing to fear about nothing. So apparently Buddha was quite happy when he discovered it. Therefore, when you discover yourself, at a certain stage, if you fail to find the self, and in failing to find the self, you don't allow yourself, your critical wisdom has become what they call this diamond cutter. This drill that cuts through diamond, your wisdom. It can go through diamond. The hard diamond is, the self habit. And this can cut even through the diamond of the self, this sort of absolute self. And when you do that, and then you don't let yourself discover an absence of that self, then what happens to you? They say, who would be there to discover their selflessness? Would you disappear? Who would be there to discover your disappearance? Would you be somehow in some big lonely space and everyone become invisible? And the clear light and all this. Clear light is a bad translation, actually. For the clear light of death, those of you who know something about it, when they say clear light. Clear light is a mistranslation. Sorry, Evans Wentz. It's really a wrong translation. The translation is transparency. Clear, it is clear in the sense of transparent. It is not light. There are superficial levels that have bright lights of various kinds. But enlightenment is non-dual from where light and dark are non-dual. Everything is transparent. So therefore nothing needs to be lighted. You see. That is to say, when you realize your selflessness, you suddenly realize that you are there with everyone else. All of the other relative interconnected things are all totally present to you. And they're not present, and they're now present to you in this way where you have become eccentrically present to it. Eccentric, You're there not as located only in yourself. You're there in all of it in a way, also in yourself, but as in yourself, not as any longer alienated from the rest of it. It's all transparent. You're transparent, they're transparent. You feel everything in it. This is why Buddhahood is inconceivable, they say. Because a Buddha is a kind of field. See, you or I are here, and this is inconceivable. And I don't know, but we can think about it. We can feel it. You or I are here. I'm just here, right? That's why Buddha is a great teacher too. Worldly teacher like myself, academic teacher, philosophical teacher. We teach, but we are over here teaching. Blah blah blah. Trying to be helpful, gain experience, critical, dialogue. We try to bring you into, we talk, etc. But still, I'm here, you're there, And each of us is there. But if we were Buddhas, we would be everywhere. So we would be in, Buddha is in all of them. And yet, if we were just in you, if I was a Buddha and I sort of wasn't in myself as a Buddha, I was just in you, then I would, if you were confused, then I'd just be over there with the confusion. Wouldn't be much help. There'd be this puppet over here, but I'd sort of just be over there. So Buddha's not just over there, but both simultaneously in himself and in others. As this kind of field being. I like to say a kind of CAT scan being. Sort of filled and aware of the psyche of other beings simultaneously. Present as an energy field, enfolding all beings. And actually as a Buddha, then this is totally inconceivable. Enfolding the universe, entire universe. But this is a little more Mahayana. I mean, this is incredible. Cosmic vision of the Buddha. Like when the Buddha used to teach in the Mahayana, at the beginning of his teaching, he would stick out his tongue or something. And then a ray of light would go out from the tongue. And everyone in the audience would see them suddenly that the same Buddha was opening his mouth to teach in billions of other world dimensions simultaneously. Millions of other assemblies. I mean, this is Mahayana kind of incredible vision, imagination that the Indian people had, openness, to sort of multiple reality. It was incredible. So Buddha is even more, you can see, not just like all the people in this room or like Buddha talking to 2 or 3 people, but it's an incredible event, actually. But anyway, for the moment, he is this kind of field type of being, just within the metaphor of our present reality here, who can be simultaneously there and other, and that's called compassion. That is how a Buddha is a perfected field of compassion. Wisdom having opened out the Buddha, not to be locked into a sort of isolated center of self. Compassion then is that presence in others, which means feeling their feelings, which is not some sort of sentimental idea of poor others, I would like them to do this or, that, but actually feeling what they feel and therefore just sort of being the remedy of what they feel, radiating the remedy to them of what they feel. Like good energy to their wounds, in a way. Not just a scan, passively knowing their problem, but also a kind of energy machine that directs energy to that problem. But that's, of course, a physical metaphor. And the real problem that people have is not a medical problem. It is an intellectual problem. It is this emotional problem. It is this instinctual problem of, I'm the one. Being at the center, being the thing that matters. The only thing that matters, that has beings, when they're animals, they eat the other one. They pounce on the deer and munch it down. You couldn't be a good lion and pounce on the deer and munch it if you thought the deer was the one. The deer is your food. And you're the one. Your hunger is it. And it enables you to take the life of that being. So this I'm the one is a very fatal. Amongst humans, it's sort of controlled up to a point. But then humans can get like that. Of course, and if humans do get like that from the Buddhist point of view, then they become more lion-like. If they become more lion-like, then they be reborn as lions. They lose that precious human gentleness very easily. It's not just one evolution up and up and up to the stars. It goes down more easily than up. So once one has the human perch in the vast ocean of evolutionary forms, one has lighted like a bird on this delicate, easy-to-break branch of the human existence, of which a tiny fraction of beings have at any one time in any one universe. Not to use that perch to realize selflessness, to become free of this drive of I'm the one and I must devour the other, is such a tragedy from the Buddhist point of view. That's why Buddhists in their countries and cultures are always running around trying to attain enlightenment. That's why they don't bother to make machines in Tibet. They didn't bother with the road systems. They were postmodern from the 17th century because they just want to spend that time, precious human brain time, when the brain is on. If you die without having achieved freedom from human life, it's dangerous. Your instincts will drag you into bad scenes they feel. So there's nothing to do but day and night, moment to moment, be focused on freedom. But luckily, of course, in such a world as that, they feel that the Buddha presence is so great around them that they don't get panicky, actually. We have to be careful not to panic. One can't panic. And they luckily don't, because they feel that this freedom is so imminent in the human form. On the other hand, they tend to get complacent, actually, in Tibet in particular. So this is a Buddhahood, then, this kind of wisdom and compassion indivisible. This is what they call Buddhahood. Freedom and love indivisible. The role in Buddhist cultures and in Buddhist orders of rituals in achieving selflessness. Although even the major function of rituals, I think, is not religious in the way that religion is defined in our culture as basically a belief system and sets of behaviors and institutions based on a certain belief system. That's how religions are defined in our current society. And they're defined as, therefore, something that's kind of separate from life, from the ordinary social life, secular, political realm. And it's sort of a realm where people go who share a belief system. And you become religious when you adopt a creed or a belief system. And you may do rituals that illustrate that creed or belief system. The thing about rituals is that there are a lot of rituals that are engaged in by the self-habit. In other words, the way we shake hands is a ritual. It may be actually the way we breathe is a ritual. The way our blood circulates is a ritual. The way that we move and dress and etc. Our whole life, in a way, could be, if you go on the ritual thing, ritual are sort of routinized patterns of behavior that reinforce certain perceptions and ideas and so on, right? So ritual is, in a way, part of life and society. It's patterns of interaction, right? Now, once the Buddha had seen this insight that I described, and I think we've all had a sense of, I hope everyone has a sense of that now. Once he had a vision of being eccentrically present in the world and how all beings were really that, and how beings could recover their eccentric, interrelated presence, and thereby bring up their compassion for each other and develop their wisdom to counteract their egotism. Once he had done that, then from that different vantage point of enlightenment, everything about life and the world could be used to reinforce that insight. Just as the ordinary world is built on the basis of ignorance and egotism, the Buddha world could be built on the basis of selflessness and compassion. You follow me? For example, the ritual that was happening in Buddha's time, the major ritual was the sacrifice. The sacrifice involved getting some cows, occasionally a horse, and once in a while a slave, human, and leading them into solemn place with a lot of mantras and hymns being recited, and certain Brahmins and this and that people and coming around, and then solemn things, and the gods invited, and then slaughtering of these animals, and then a barbecue, of course, afterwards. After the gods have had their share, then the priests have a barbecue. That was the dominant ritual in the Buddha's time, reinforcing that there is food for us, that we are the ones and we have our allotted food. Of course, as a society, we don't eat each other. We have boundaries of what we eat and what we don't. But we do eat this and this. And that's correct, and the gods are with us in that, and etc. That was the ritual, reinforcing a sense of us against them, reinforcing that sense of self against the universe, and kind of making it bearable. That was the going ritual in Buddha's time. And the Buddha was very against it when he had his new insight. He said, to kill an animal is to be a killer. To be a killer is to reinforce in yourself the self-habit, the unenlightened self versus the world, to think that that life, that's the ultimate statement, that that life is not as important as this life. That's the ultimate statement, that I'm the one and you're not. It's, I can kill you. I mean, that's the dog-eat-dog level of life. So to sanctify, pretend this is a ritual, and go out and say, I'm going to get something out of killing this animal, is reinforcing all that is wrong from the Buddha's point of view. So the Buddha adopts rituals. The Buddha creates, and the Buddhists create, rituals of offering, rituals of releasing beings not to lose their lives. And then there's many elaborate things, but the basic structure of Buddhist rituals in general are new ways of celebrating a selfless life, presence of nirvana, freedom. That's basically what the underlying principle within rituals within Buddhism, which in other words are ways of rebuilding the world on the basis of wisdom, having totally deconstructed the world that was there on the basis of ignorance. And the big shift actually in that is the shift from killing to not killing. In every country Buddhism went, blood sacrifice was the rule of the day. That was the big thing. The people who pretended to be the authorities, and I think still today, people who pretend to be authority, buttress their authority by pretending to have the right of life and death over other people. That's how they subdue and terrify and subordinate people to them. So if they can kill, they are something powerful. That's just ignorance from the Buddhist point of view. It's the height of ignorance. Because in killing, they are killing their real chance in human life. By killing others, they're destroying their own chance of human life. And they're assuring their achievement of subhuman life again upon death in their life. From the Buddhist point of view. So killing is bad enough in a war when you're angry, in a situation where you're defending yourself, where your instincts have kind of taken you over. But sort of conscious killing out of ideology in ritual is considered a joke.
The Bob Thurman podcast is produced through a Creative Commons No Derivatives license. Please be sure to like, share, and repost on your favorite social media platforms. And is brought to you in part through the generous support of the Tibet House US Menla membership community and listeners like you. To learn more about the benefits of Tibet House membership, please visit our websites at thus.org, menla.org, and bobthurman.com. Tashi Delek, and thanks for tuning in.